By following these 10 simple steps, we've managed to practically eliminate the visual chaos of cable clutter from our home entirely. Cable management boxes are a fantastic way to hide the biggest offender in all of our homes when it comes to cable clutter, the power strip. Despite these unsightly contraptions serving a useful purpose of turning a single outlet into several, it means that their multiple outlets often end up filled with a ton of cables, which of course are also never the same size or color, which turns this humble device into a spider's web of wires which all converge at this one location. Cable management boxes do the simple job of hiding all of this mess in an electrically safe plastic housing that's a million times more pleasant to look at than the stress-inducing tangle of cables that you often see with power strips, and somehow they conceal this unfortunate household necessity into something that looks not too dissimilar from any other piece of modern home tech. And they're also great if you're just a little bit lazy, as you can also just hide all of your excess cable inside of them too, which serves as a great disguise if you have curious children or pets. Just as a word of caution, do make sure that you use a little bit of common sense when stuffing cables and power strips in these boxes, as some power strips and adapters can get quite hot, and when you're putting a lot of stress on wires like this, you do need to make sure that you're not bending them too sharply. Velcro straps are another incredibly simple but super effective solution for cable clutter, as for example, when you have a desk setup, you have multiple devices like a PC, a monitor, and speakers that all need power. But many of these devices also need to be connected together too, with things like HDMI, auxiliary, and DisplayPort cables. Which means that from just 3 items alone, like a monitor, PC, and speakers, you end up with 5 or 6 cables, not to mention all of the other cables you need for things like Ethernet connectivity, peripherals like mice and keyboards, as well as lamps and USB chargers, which can quickly end up causing a mass of tangled wires, which is something you do not want if you want a good looking desk setup. So seeing as things can get messy pretty quickly, Velcro straps are a quick and effective way to keep all of these wires in check, and when used liberally, you can make several cables look almost like one. And for pretty much every other cable I own that isn't permanently plugged in, I like to fix one to one of their ends so that they don't get tangled up when I put them in bags or storage. So at around $10 for a pack of 100, you can't really go wrong with these, as I found you can never really have enough of them on hand. Like Velcro straps, cable sleeves do the same job, albeit at a longer length and without the Velcro. You can get plastic versions of these with exit holes or fabric versions with zips, but my favourite is the braided version, which are self-wrapping and have the ability to be cut down to size. There's definitely a limit of how many cables you can squeeze into these before they start coming apart. However, where they really shine is in the way that they can entirely conceal multiple cables of different colours and thicknesses into one coherent sleeve, which is far nicer than leaving them all on display, even if for the most part they're tucked out of view. And when matched to either your walls or something like a desk leg, they can make a room feel far less busy and chaotic, as they just tend to blend in far better by concealing everything behind one smooth outer shell. Now, if cables were limited to our homes, that would be fantastic, but they're equally as frustrating when taking them in bags. Zipper pouches are great for this if you're someone who often works from a laptop, as they give you a way to bring not only all of your cables together, but also all of your chargers and other tech, with things like power banks, card readers, fast chargers, and mice becoming so common these days for remote working. So just like how you segment cutlery and utensils apart in a kitchen, the same principle can be applied to our bags using zipper pouches. So just as you might have a lunchbox or a makeup bag, applying the same principle to all of your tech can make a lot of sense. You could really use anything to help keep these items organized, but a lot of purpose-made zipper or tech pouches have a bunch of useful elastic straps and pockets to keep everything neatly together, which gives you the luxury of having everything orderly and organized, regardless of what bag you end up putting them in. Cable clips, unlike Velcro straps or cable sleeves, allow you to consolidate and fix cables to a surface at the same time. These come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but one thing to be aware of is that adhesive clips can only support so much. So in the case that you do need to support several cables, you're better off purchasing something with a hole for screws. As I found, there's nothing worse than experiencing all of your hard work of cable management coming unstuck during the middle of the day, only to disconnect your PC from the power and simply force you to put it all back together again, which is something you do not want to be doing. On another note, another style of cable clip that I particularly like are the versions that allow you to clip single cables in and out relatively quickly, as these work great on the back edges of desks or nightstands, as when you're done using a device, you can let the cable fall back behind the surface's edge. So when you come back to plug it back in, you know exactly where it is while keeping it hidden away from view. Another great solution for tidying a mess of cables is by using a charging station instead of a power strip. A lot of the time the devices we use do all tend to be charged via USB, which means that a typical power strip becomes a very inefficient way to power all of these cables, using various bulky adapters of different sizes. You can get these dedicated USB charging stations, which combine vertical device storage with charging, so you can power and store all of your devices from one neat little charger. However, the one downside that you may find with these is that you do end up with a lot of short little cables scattered across your table. So my solution to this is actually separating these two functions apart using a vertical device stand and a cable clip to hide all of my cables out of sight behind our nightstand, which means that we can charge all of our devices using a dedicated super fast GAN charger to keep everything neat and organized and reap the benefits of fast charging, which means that we can comfortably charge our laptops here too. Cable conduit, or cable covers, or cable raceways, or whatever you want to call them, are a fantastic way to hide cables, as they essentially provide you with a channel to slot all of your cables into with a removable cover that just pops in place over the top of it. These are especially good for wall-mounted TVs, where you tend to end up with a bunch of wires hanging down towards a media console. So it's easy to assume that you have to chase into or route cables through your wall in order to actually hide them. But actually, a shallow D-shaped conduit can do a really decent job of disguising these without having to tear into your wall. Or should you want a desk setup with a super clean, shallow underside, you can use a deep, square-profiled cable raceway with holes that allow cables to exit at various points along the desk, keeping everything flush to its underside. But for more ambitious use cases, you can even connect these conduits at the corners and run them along the walls to get wires and outlets all the way to the other side of your room, where you can do a good job hiding them up against your baseboards or at the junctions of your ceiling and walls. Unlike cable conduit, cable trays are different, as they're usually deeper and stronger, and they have an open side, meaning that they deal with abuse and change far better, as there's no cover to pop on and off each time you change something that's part of your setup. These work really well on the underside of desks, as they're often deep enough to conceal an entire power strip, giving them functionality that's much like a cable management box that's just mounted to the underside of your desk. They're not usually that long, however in reality you could mount 2 or 3 of these along the entirety of your desk for an incredibly clean look that keeps all of your cable management entirely accessible. So you can really just be lazy and stuff all of your cables inside, which is something that's actually really important if you're continually swapping things in and out in order to optimize your workflow. And what this means is that you can have an entire mobile standing desk setup that's powered by just one cable going to a power strip. Finally, I'm going to round off this list with 2 strategies that can potentially just cost you nothing, which is to simply camouflage and conceal by simply placing furniture or objects in front of cables so that they go unnoticed, or by picking cables that match the colours of your walls. Furniture like nightstands, plants, side tables and ottomans do a great job at this, as they tend to hide mess really well, and you can quickly move them out of the way to access the cables behind them. But what's great about these last 2 strategies is that these are things you can do quickly with what you already have, as in reality, the main reason that most of us probably put up with cable clutter in the first place is because it can just be something that's too much effort to deal with. In comparison, when considering how much time and effort we may be willing to spend on nice furniture or home decor, hopefully this video convinced you to give some of these cable management strategies a shot.